As I mentioned, a little tennis tournament happening across the river, and there is a very, very special guest with us here who won that tournament. She was on court being honored for being inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. She is going to be a guest on a special taping of the David Rubenstein Show, peer-to-peer conversations. I love the fact that I can call David Rubenstein just a colleague. He's just a guy. We work together, make a couple shows here at Bloomberg. It's one of my favorite shows on television. And so please help me welcome David Rubenstein and none other than Maria Sharapova.
We said to sit at number 2, which...
Okay, well...
and I heard you wanted to go second after me, which usually means if you're walking through the US Open tunnel and you're second, that means you're the top seed. So David's the top seed today.
So...
You're very humble.
You were recently inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, and the person who inducted you was Serena Williams, who you played many times and was your principal competitor. Was it awkward being inducted by her, or was it fun?
Awkward wasn't the right word, David. It was so exciting and it was so thrilling.
Were you surprised that she agreed to do it?
Well, that would have been awkward, because that is a call that I made, and I said, well, there's no one else I'd rather be on that stage than you. And she said, I'm honored. But it could have gone the other way.
Okay, well.
It didn't, thankfully. And she was incredible. She was very thoughtful. Her speech was really strong, but it was also very personal. And there's that moment when she walked on stage of like 5 to 10 seconds when there was like a bit of silence and shock, and there's a wave through the crowd, and I was like, I think we achieved what we wanted to achieve here.
Okay, so let's talk about what it's like to be the #1 tennis player in the world. You're the #1 female tennis player in the world, and you were for many years #1, and you won many singles titles, including Wimbledon at the age of 17. Seems like an ungodly young age to win.
It was a long time ago, just confirming.
So, by the way, when you won at Wimbledon at age 17, I mean, did your world completely change? You were so young then, and you weren't the #1 ranked player at that time. Were you surprised? And what did you do right after? Did you call your parents? Were they there?
I did call my mom. She was actually on her way to New York to meet me, because I was then going to fly to New York for some press engagement, and she saw me win on television while I was playing the Wimbledon final. And what changed? Well, a lot changes for the good and for the bad in that moment. You're such a young girl, and all the things that come with it that you've never really expected in your life. An opportunity to say yes to so many things when actually you should be saying no, and getting back on the horse and doing the things that made you a champion on that day. Because while you're winning, everyone else is training to beat you in the next tournament. I flew back to Los Angeles shortly afterwards because my coach was there, and my family and I used to stay when we visit him. We didn't have that much money at the time, but we'd stayed in one of these hotels, and after I won Wimbledon, my agent upgraded us to a hotel, and it had this like yellow rubber duck next to the bath. And I called him and I said, winning Wimbledon is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And that's coming from a teenager's perspective.
So no more Holiday Inn Express or so.
That was exactly the hotel we stayed at prior to winning Wimbledon. Not an ad.
So now you're at the top of the game in tennis for quite some time, and now you're in the business world. You're on the board of Montclair. You are involved
We have some connection to Montclair.
Well, Carlisle was an investor in Montclair, and we
No
made
big deal.
a amount of money. I hope you do as well as we did.
You sold a little early, but that's okay.
It's a good company.
I mean, you said it. You said it, not me.
It's a good company. You'll do well for them, and I'm sure. But tell me, how do you compare the thrill of being in the business world where you're either endorsing products or investing in products with playing tennis?
There's no match point in business, right? There's no that like feeling of, okay, now I this one point is on the line. I've gotten to this point and it's make or break. So much will change. Like there's none of that getting on your knees and waving to the crowd, you know. And yes, I miss those memories, I miss those moments. But the adjustment period of working through deals and getting to know founders and taking chances on people who you've only known a certain amount of time is very similar to my sport and what I had to endure for many years. So although there are similarities, there's not that like moment of victory. What is your moment of victory like? I would love to know.
So, I don't know, but let me ask you. You live in California.
He's like, not having it.
You live in California, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Many professional athletes live in low-tax states. Why are you living in a high-tax state?
This was not on the script, by the way.
Okay. I'm just curious how you happen to pick California. It's a great place, but it's a high-tax place for high-income people. Doesn't bother you?
It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me for a long time because I knew that that's where I needed to be in order to train and be the best athlete that I could be.
Okay.
From weather to training to, so I didn't think about it. And I'm not someone that thinks about money that way. Like I don't think of what they will put in my coffin when the day's over.
Well, when you were playing tennis, you were making more money from endorsements than from the prize money. And I think for like 17 years in a row or 18 years in a row, you were the highest paid female athlete when you take into account endorsements and other things. So you kind of made yourself into a brand. Did you consciously say, I'm going to be a brand and more than just an athlete? And was that hard to do, or you were just focused on the athletics and the other things just came along?
As a female athlete, I was very well aware that at a certain point in my career, whether it was injury related, whether I would want to start a family, whether I'd just lose interest in the sport, I knew that the day would come to call it quits, and it would come sooner than other professions. And I made a very conscious effort of setting up a platform and a foundation that would make me feel, going into a second chapter of anyone's career, whether you're an athlete or just coming from college and you're moving on to a new chapter in your life, is really, really challenging. And I knew that it was going to be important for me to feel like I have a strong foundation in order to grow in another chapter.
All right, so when you were playing tennis, let's go back to the beginning. You were born in Russia?
Siberia, yeah.
And
now I'm being interviewed by you. It's so cool.
So you're born in Russia, but when your parents moved you and your family out of there when you were relatively young, is that right?
Yes, I was born in Siberia. When I was 2, we moved to Sochi, which is in the Black Sea. And when I was 5.5 years old, we moved to Florida with my father.
Right. So now you went there because you wanted to play tennis. Is that right or not?
I mean, at 5.5, you're not really the one that's making decisions.
Right. So
I have a 3-year-old,
but at 5.5,
even though he acts like he wants, he knows everything, but.
Did your parents see in you athletic skill at 5.5? That's so young. And were you actually playing tennis before? And when did they say, we should move to Florida and you can be a better tennis player?
So I started when I was 4, and I started playing tennis when I was 4. And at 5.5, my father took me to this exhibition in Moscow. He saved up a little bit of money. We took the train from Sochi, and Martina Navratilova was holding like a kids tennis clinic, and there were a few hundred kids. And she pulled my father aside and said, your daughter has talent, and you should go somewhere where this talent can be developed. And my father read every newspaper, articles. He saw that the Williams sisters were training in Florida. He saw that Anna Kournikova was training in Florida. And he's like, our path is going to Florida.
Did he have the money to do all that?
Not a lot. He landed with $700 in his
So
Levi's.
he just came over with you. Your mother stayed behind?
Yeah, she stayed behind for 2 years. She couldn't get a visa for the first 2 years.
And how did he explain, you were only 5.5, how did he explain that your mother was staying behind and he was coming over with you?
We didn't know that at the time because we thought she'd come over sooner, but then,
And so you joined a tennis academy?
We went to Bollettieri, which is a famous academy. We knocked on their door at like middle of the night, said, we're here. They're like, well, where's your money? We're like, we don't have any. And the coaches, they welcomed me into a program, and then I went off to center court after they saw me play, and I got a scholarship.
Okay, so you got a scholarship, but at what point did you realize you actually were pretty good? I mean, not just a person who says, I'm 5.5, I'm good. Lots of little kids at 5.5 say they're good. But when did you realize you really were better than the average 5.5-year-old?
I never allowed myself to say that.
So when you became a teenager, were you beating other teenagers at Bollettieri?
The thing about being a young athlete is the process is you want to play against people that make you realize that you have weaknesses in your game. So you set yourself up against competition that is either older or stronger or better. And so if you feel like you're constantly winning, you're not learning much. And I found that like even winning, and when you're a teenager, winning your 20s, that's not when you're doing your best work. When you're doing your best work is when you get off the court and you've just lost and you have to face your team, and you have to get back to the drawing board and say, well, I mean, we have to figure it out because we thought we were going to have a great day.
Well, do you ever say to yourself, you know, I really would rather do something else at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Tennis isn't, you know, some of the young players get burned out. You probably saw that at Bollettieri. They burn out, the parents take them there, and after a while they say, I don't really want to do this. You never got burnout, right?
I loved what I did. I loved being first in line. I loved having the lesson at 6 a.m. because I love the feeling of like there's like a physical exhaustion as an athlete at the end of the day where you do everything that's in your capacity to be better. And as a female, I really related to if I can get a little better, 5%, 1%, 0.5%, then I feel like I did great.
Now, were your parents athletes themselves?
My father thinks he's an athlete, but
was he a competitive athlete?
I think most fathers can occasionally relate that they're great athletes.
Did he play any sport that we would have heard of, or?
He played hockey. He now cycles around the world. Yeah, I mean, he still thinks he's like in the Senior Olympics.
Obviously, you're tall. You're 6'2".
That's accurate.
Okay,
yes.
6'2". Okay, so there aren't that many female tennis players that are 6'2". There may be a few. So when did you realize you had the physical strength and height to really be a really great player? Was that when you were 12, 13, 14?
I didn't. I don't think I realized like the advantage that I'd have if I was taller, and I didn't grow until I won Wimbledon. I was like average height, and I was still growing through that time. But I do remember my father thinking, okay, it would be better if she grew. So before I went to sleep, they like hung a rod at the door and like for like 30 seconds before I went to sleep, because my parents would say, well, when you're sleeping is when your like body's developing and you're growing. So they kind of like made me stretch my body. So, ta-da!
Okay. Did you have siblings?
I didn't have siblings, no.
Okay, so you think I'm an only child myself, so you think
it's
the
great.
only. What?
It's great.
It's great. You don't have to worry about sibling rivalry and anything else. Your parents put all their attention on you. So you didn't have any problems in that regard.
I loved it. I still do.
Okay, and so at what point did you realize you could be a champion? When you were 14, 15, when did you realize you could be a champion as opposed to, I'm going to be reasonably good?
I never allowed myself to believe that I could be a champion, because I always did my best work when I felt like I was like gonna jump off the cliff, like things weren't working well, because I had to keep proving to myself that I needed to work for it even harder, even deeper. I needed to dig deeper. It's hard in tennis. You're playing 10 months out of the year, and you may win a Grand Slam, but in a few weeks you have another one. So you feel like you're on top of the world, and a few weeks later you can be, you're in the press room and everyone's ridiculing you for losing the first round.
Now, when you're playing tennis, at the end of a match, if you lose or win, the players go, they shake hands, or they hug each other, whatever they do.
Rarely hug each other, but yes.
Okay, so, but you really don't like the other person. Is it hard to kind of pretend you're like them when you're hugging them, or is that, you get used to that?
I was pretty honest about just about the relationship of being an athlete to another athlete. Like I always found it really difficult of sharing this thought of, oh, why don't we like have a drink or go out to dinner and have an appetizer, like when I'm trying to really beat you the next day and I'm gonna pump my fist in your face, but then I'm gonna give you a hug after. It never really made sense.
Okay, so like in the locker rooms before the matches, and you're in the locker room with your people you're about to play, you have small talk with them, or you just don't talk with them because you're trying to, remember you're going to beat them. So you talk to them, or you don't do anything?
Yeah, small talk wasn't my specialty, I'll be honest. I was very focused, and I was very the locker room was my office, and I wouldn't spend much time there. I was in and out. I treated it as a really important profession, and no, there's not a lot of small talk.
So what would you say is the thing you're most proud of having done as a tennis player? Was it winning Wimbledon? You won each of the majors once at least, I think.
Yeah.
So, and you won an Olympic medal as well. So what was the highlight of your tennis career?
I'd say consistency. I think consistency is, you can have results and they could, come at various times in your career, but I was consistent for many years, and you have to show up. You don't just show up to play first round or the finals, but you have to show up for press conferences after, before every match, before every tournament, and just the consistency and the mental wear and tear of showing up week in, week out. So I felt like I consistently showed up for my team, for my sponsors, and for a long period of time. I'd say that as I look back, I'm proud of that.
So when tennis players used to fight over whether the ball was in or out before they had these machines, that seemed to be something you could get excited about. Now the machines, does that eliminate some of the fun? You can't yell at the refs anymore, the umpire, because the machine tells you it's in or out, or is that not a problem?
I would love to see John McEnroe play with the machines
right
now, right? I mean, he'd still find a cause for argument.
Now, did you ever play McEnroe in a mixed doubles or anything like that?
Unfortunately, we played mixed doubles in pickleball.
Oh.
And I have not made that mistake since.
Oh, is he a good pickleball player?
He wasn't on the day.
Oh.
No.
He lose his temper or anything?
He did walk out and didn't say goodbye to us.
Oh.
He was not very happy with our performance.
Okay.
But that's
So
just
you're now
politically correct.
now you have a young son.
Yes.
And do you want to
just
make
went
him
to
a
preschool for the first time. This feels like a departure from where I was a couple days ago of leaving your son in school for the very first time.
Did he say, will you be home when I come home, or did you say I'll be in New York?
I did pick him up, but I did sit in my car for an hour, like bawling and waiting for someone to call me saying, no, we don't want him for some reason. Yeah, it was a very strange feeling.
Does he have the talent to be a tennis player?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, are you going to push him into tennis or some other sport?
He's not currently showing much athletic ability.
Well, then he can go into private equity.
I don't know, should he?
Private equity is a good business to be in. And
I mean, it's worked out for some.
it's okay. So are you in the private equity world now? Do you invest in companies from time to time?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so do you test the brands before to make sure you actually like the brand? How do you decide you're going to invest or not?
Yeah, one of my first investments was when I felt like I had financial security from endorsement deals. And I was using an SPF brand called Supergoop for many years. Bought it at Sephora myself. And found the founder. They were 5 employees at the time. And said, look, I don't need a return on investment right now. I'll use my platform. I love your product. And then 7 to 9 years later, they sold 75% of their company for $750 million. So that was my first real investment in the space, and it did really well for me. And I think it was a testament to what I think is important in investment. And correct me if I'm wrong, is being passionate about what you're investing in, being a consumer, making sure that everyone around you is a consumer and a strong team.
Okay, so recently you went on the Montclair board. Montclair, as we talked about, is a company Carlyle had invested in early on. And when you go into board meetings now, did they say, well, she's a former athlete, you don't expect her to know much about the business world, or do they actually say, we want to hear your opinion on the business side of it? And you bone up on the business side, and how actively are you involved in the board meetings?
Yeah, I was very intimidated by the role. I was intimidated that I was asked in the first place. I knew Rema Ruffini for several years. And it's very official. It's like a UN meeting. You're sitting around this large, you've attended several board meetings in your life, but this was one of my first. And there's a microphone and it's translation because it's an Italian public trading company. So there's definitely an intimidating factor to it. But they're all very collaborative. I selfishly took on the role because I felt like I could learn from a lot of people sitting in that room. And I feel like that's kind of been the trajectory of my career, is even though I was passionate and so deeply involved in one thing, I stayed really open-minded and curious about other things. I let other people kind of guide my education because I didn't have a formal education. So I feel like this is.
So if somebody's watching this and they say, I have a company that would benefit from having you on the board, are you open to going on other boards? And if you go on a board, would you want to invest in the company, or you just want to be on the board?
It depends on the company. I mean, you're really throwing me on the spot. What's the company? Give me an example.
Well, I don't know. Let's suppose Bernard Arnault calls you up and says, LVMH needs you on the board. I guess you would probably say that might be an attractive one.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Right, okay. Okay.
That's a very easy test, though.
Okay. So today, you don't play tennis at all?
I don't.
No pro-ams?
My friends don't want to play with me.
Well, but I assume you get invited to pro-ams all the time, and you don't want to do those kind of things?
I guess the honest answer is I don't want to be a sad version of my old self. Like, I knew, like, what I loved about the sport was how quick it was, how reactive it was, how powerful it was. When you don't play it for a long time, you don't have that anymore.
Well, have you ever played mixed doubles?
I wasn't very good at mixed doubles.
Well,
I wasn't very good at sharing.
Okay, well, if you ever wanted to play mixed doubles, we could have I could show up, you come to
Okay.
my house,
Okay.
the court, and we would pretend that you're just an average person who's visiting for the weekend.
Okay.
And then we'll just see if we can win some money that
Do
way.
you just have one court?
I have
several
one
courts?
court per house, yeah.
Oh. It was kind of the answer I wanted to get from him.
Okay. All right.
So you're welcome.
So what do you prefer, grass or hard courts or clay? What do you like? You won on all of them.
I like grass, but I ended up winning more on clay. So I guess
So
the red
where
clay.
are the tennis fans the most knowledgeable?
That's a great question. New York. They're definitely the most drunk in New York. Those honey doo-doos or whatever they're called are really strong.
So New York, you have to play at night. Was that a problem playing at nights in New York? Or?
I was intimidated by the night match in New York. Yeah, it was loud. It was. I'm also I'm like quite an introvert, and I love to do my work, and I love to be with my team. And so like going through that tunnel where Billie Jean King's quote is "pressure is a privilege" was like very intimidating. And then the noise and the crowd, and you never really had a restful moment in New York, but I embraced it. Yeah, I loved it. And then we started doing like, I worked with Nike for many years, and they created first ever athlete that wore like a separate dress for a night match. They created for me, it was an Audrey Hepburn dress. And I think like, I got comfortable with the environment of playing a night match.
So in New York, when you play in, let's say, U.S. Open, where do you actually stay in hotels, or do they rent houses nearby?
Hotels.
And when you win at Wimbledon, does somebody in the royal family come and give you the trophy, and what is that like?
The year that I won Wimbledon, I stayed with a family that I had never met. We rented the top unit of their house, and
Did they give you a discount because you won later, or they don't do that?
no, that's when they start charging you more.
Oh, more? Oh.
Yeah. But I remember the morning after, I went down. Well, first I remember my father coming in at like 4 or 5 a.m. with all these like newspapers and like throwing them on the floor and saying, "We did it," because he sees his daughter on the cover of these papers. And then, a few hours later, we walked down and we had like breakfast with this family and with my little replica photo. Yeah.
So when you win Wimbledon, obviously you're excited. You're only 17 years old. Was there any match that could ever replicate that feeling of winning at Wimbledon at 17? Or was anything you won other championships? Was there anything ever comparable to that even?
Winning the French Open to achieve a career Grand Slam, I didn't think that I would feel like the strength of that victory, but it really felt good because it was a surface that was so challenging, and it exposed all my weaknesses. And as an athlete that is playing in front of thousands of people, when you know that there is a particular weakness in your game and you're able to turn that around in front of people and make that into one of your strengths, was a really strong moment in my career.
So when you're just watching tennis as an observer, who do you like to watch over, let's say, the last 10 or 20 years? Are there certain players who have such style or such athletic ability you just like watching them just as a fan? Or who would that be?
I think I've really enjoyed watching the sport from a completely zoomed out perspective. I never allowed myself, like when I was playing, they started like engaging fans in these fan experiences. Like that was an entirely new world for me. Like fans would come to practice, which for many years, practice courts were closed off. I mean, now the first week of the US Open is like a fan week, right? You have mixed doubles during the US Open. You have all these like parties, engagements. That never happened in my career. So I guess I've been intrigued by the change. I also understand the demands of that and how exhausting and physically challenging it is for those players to go through a 3-week. I mean, we're in the second week of the US Open right now. Players are playing the quarters and the semis. I mean, the engagements and the matches that they've had to play and participate in the past 2.5 weeks, when this tournament's over, they're going to need a long vacation.
So in tennis, theoretically, when you're playing these championship matches, the coaches are not supposed to be telling you anything.
That's changed now. They can.
They can
Yeah.
they can give you
Yeah.
hand signals, or they just tell you.
Verbally, yeah, whatever they want.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
does that help you that much, or you just say, look, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing?
It depends how the match is going. There are a few times where I would tell my coach, it's enough. But yeah, I mean, the stress of the situation, I think, guides the communication between the player and the coach. Some players love it. They openly communicate to their coaches. I know Alcaraz does it very often, whereas others, I think Sinner does it less often.
And do the coaches make a big difference? Suppose you had been, you didn't have all these coaches that you had, you could have been a champion as well, do you think, or not?
I don't think so, no. No, team is everything.
And everybody that plays at the top level has a coach or something like that now.
Well, now they have more than a coach. Yeah, there's like...
And did you get to know Nick Bollettieri?
I did.
And
yes.
he didn't know how to play tennis, did he?
He
was a coach.
He was a coach, and he was more of a mentor to me than a coach. He kind of guided. He'd come on the court and he'd make you feel like you were part of like his family, and that was a special feeling, especially when you didn't come from much and when you didn't have much support around you. He was one of the first few coaches that kind of acknowledged.
One time he actually started out in Maryland. That's where he started. And one time I was in a court and he had a young player, Aaron Crickstein, I think,
That's right.
was one of his proteges.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing against him with somebody else. They put on my side. I didn't do that well. But that was the
okay.
end of my tennis career, pretty much. So at any point in your tennis career, did you say, I've had enough and I'm just going to retire at the top? Or how much? Athletes sometimes stay a little bit longer than they should. You didn't do that, but did you ever worry about that problem, staying too long?
It's a great question, and it's one that I think every athlete finds a different answer to. Mine came a little bit later than when I would have liked. I think stubbornness was a great quality that shaped a lot of my victories, but in the end of my career, I think it became a flaw because I was so stubborn to get healthy, for my shoulder to recover. I was also at an age where just my body didn't recover as quickly. And so for a year or two, that stubbornness got in the way of other great things in my life.
So when you're an athlete, you have to eat well, I assume. So Wheaties used to be called the breakfast of champions. I don't know if it was. But did you have special foods that you ate before you played? Or you waited till after you played before you ate?
So an athlete's diet is very simple. It's fairly strict, but I also had a big sweet tooth, so I would sneak in a few like candies here and there.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah, wasn't great.
Okay.
I didn't tell my coach.
So today, you don't do any athletics at all, or you?
No, I work. I mean,
You work out, but you're not.
No,
tennis.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't play much tennis, and I should. I want to. But it's like a thing, you have to like string your racket, you have to book a court. I don't have a court at my house like you do.
Well,
So I have to go to a public place.
I got a feeling you could afford to buy a court or build a court if you want. Not that.
How do you know?
I think you probably could. I mean, you won a fair amount of money on your, I don't know, it's not expensive to have a court, but.
For you, it's not expensive.
Well,
Okay.
have a grass court might be more expensive, but.
It's true.
Okay.
The maintenance is more expensive.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so today.
How are we doing?
When you're walking around New York, people recognize you, and when people come up to you and say, "Can I have a selfie?" What do you say?
It happened yesterday. I was staying at the Amman and I went for a swim, and I get out of a pool and it was really awkward. Someone asked for a photo, and and usually I'm very open to photos, but in that instance, I was like, we're kind of in a private space, and perhaps we can do it another time. And they were disappointed.
Can you go to a restaurant and people don't bother you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and so do you miss people not coming up to you saying, hey, I know who you are? Or you're happy they don't come up to you?
I think what I loved about recognition was like respect for what you did. I mean, it was a lot of work. So when someone would come up to you and say, it was incredible seeing what you achieved, or a young girl or boy coming up and saying, you were my idol. That was a nice feeling of respect. But I don't miss the things that come.
So you're married, and your husband, is he a tennis?
Not married yet, no.
Oh, you're not. Do you have a tennis player partner?
He thinks yeah.
Okay.
I will not finish that sentence.
Oh, he's not.
In case he listens. No, he plays. Yeah.
But I mean, if you just want to show him how bad he is, you don't play anymore to show him how bad he is.
No, I'd probably just tell him.
Okay.
It works just as good.
Okay, and so let me ask you a final question. In the end, if you could do anything different in your life other than this interview, what would you most have done different? Wish you had done differently? You won more tournaments, not won as many, not played as long.
Yeah.
What would you wish you had done differently? Going into private
how
equity early or something like that?
Yeah, this is not how I thought this interview would go. So, for better or worse, I like the thought of doing things and letting them flow and leaning into things being hard and difficult. I don't want to look back and say I should have done something, because the reason I'm here, the reason I won these events was because I probably messed up a few times and I lost some really tough matches, and I lean into feeling like this doesn't feel good, and what am I going to do to change it?
Well, the business career is easier, and no doubt you'll be.
I don't think so.
Oh, it's much easier. There's less competition than being the number one in the world. You don't have to be number one in the world to do a successful investment. So I'm sure you'll do well in this world as well. And if you ever need any private equity advice, just give me a call. Okay. Thanks very much.
What's your number?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.